Okay, I had a little fun playing around with my background picture here. So I've got soap bubbles behind me now. So now we're ready to create the keyboard shortcuts, or sometimes they're called hotkeys, for you to be able to switch between those setups that we just created in the previous video. So in order to do this, we need to use a feature of CamTwist that's called the CamTwist Studio. And what that means is that we're really not going to be using this main CamTwist window anymore. So we're just going to go ahead and minimize that. Now up at the top of your screen on the gray bar across the top of your Mac, you're going to click on View and you're going to open the Studio. I'm going to make this a lot bigger so that you can see what's going on here. Now, don't worry too much about what happens in this section of the Studio for right now. Once we create the hotkeys, we're not going to be using this section right at all, but I just wanted you to understand how it works, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. So this section down here, each one of these little squares, they're called buttons, and they correspond to the saved setups that you have right here. So there's a button for each one of your setups. So those setups that we just created, your give reward, your props, and your normal teaching background, whatever you want to call that, there is a button for each one of those here. Now, what you are seeing over here on the red side, the program side, is what is live in the classroom. It's what the students can see, and it's also showing up over here in your preview. Now, if I click on the Give Reward screen, then it's going to show that in the preview section, which means that it's loaded up and it's ready to go over to the over to the program side when I want it to. And in order to do that, I just have to hit one of these buttons over here. So I can do cut, or I can do dissolve, which kind of makes it like fade in and fade out, or I can choose one of these effects like page curl that makes it do that, or whatever. I happen to like ripple. That's the one that I use in my classes. It makes it go like that. Cool. So in order to get your setups so that they load into the preview side and then effect with the ripple or whatever into the program side, we need to set up the hotkeys. So I'm just going to make this a lot smaller, and I literally don't even look at these when I'm teaching. So I'm just going to put this off to the side. Okay, so we're going to go up to the gray bar at the top of your Mac, and there's a menu there that's called User, and you're going to hit Edit this menu. And this is where you create your keyboard shortcuts. So I already have a bunch of them set up right here. The first one that you're going to create, let me get myself out of this so that you can see what I'm doing here. Oh, look at that, my background's back to China. So in order to do this, the first one that you're going to do is your transition. So I happen to like the ripple transition. You can choose whichever one you want. So you're going to hit the plus button here. You're going to go over to the drop down and you're going to select Studio Transition and then choose whichever one it is that you want to use. Let's see, there's one that I don't have here yet, Dissolve. Okay, so I'll just choose Dissolve. And then I'm going to click this button and I'm going to create this shortcut. Now, I use Control and then whatever seems to make sense in my head. If it's the transition, you want to call it Control T. If it's Dissolve and you want to call it Control D, whatever you want that's going to be easy for you to remember while you're doing it during class. Okay, so you can do whatever. So Control D, I guess. And then it's saved. You want to make sure that you click the button for exclusive access, and then that is saved. So every time that I do Control D, it's going to dissolve my picture. Now, it kept me on the same picture because I don't have anything loaded into the preview section over there. That's where the next hotkeys are going to come into play. So again, you're going to hit the plus button. You're going to go over to the drop down. This time, you're going to choose Studio Preview. Okay. Now, choose whichever one of these, whichever one of those three setups. So your normal teaching background, like I have here, or your props, or your giving reward screen. Pick any of those and go ahead and create your shortcut for it. And then create your shortcut for the other two setups. So you want to have 4 hotkeys all together. I have some extras here because I've been doing demos. So you want to have 4 hotkeys all together. 1 for your transition, 1 for your normal teaching background, 1 for props, and 1 for giving reward. Now, once that is set up, every time that you go to put these hotkeys in, you will have to put in 2 hotkeys. You'll have to put in the one that sends it to the preview section, and then you'll have to put in the one that moves it over, the transition one that will move it over, okay? So every time that I want to go to my give reward screen, I hit Control G. Whoops. You always have to click, this is an important tip, you always have to click on a CamTwist window, something CamTwist on your screen before you hit a hotkey, or else it won't work. So I'm going to hit Control G, which puts it into the preview, and then I'm going to hit Control R to transition it over. Okay, so every time you do this, you're going to need to hit 2 hotkeys. And then I can go back to my normal teaching background by hitting Control N and then Control R for ripple. Okay, so that's it's pretty simple. Once you have those saved and set up, it will be easy for you to just navigate back and forth between these during class. Now, if you have watched Megan Locke's video on hotkeys, and I recommend that you do because it's a great video and it's how I learned how to use the hotkeys, the only difference here is in this window, down here, I can make this grow, there is a little checkbox here that says swap mode. You want it to be unchecked. In Megan's video, she has it checked. You want it to be unchecked, okay? And the reason for that is because if I give a reward and I put this into swap mode, and then I go back to my normal teaching screen, now look, it swapped my reward over to the preview, which seems good because then you only have to hit the Control R to swap it over, except what if you forget that your reward is in the preview? Then if you go and hit give reward again, it's going to blank out and then you get nothing. So it just works better for this purpose to have the swap mode button unchecked. And then every time you hit the key, it will just go right over to the other side. So just make sure that that's unchecked, and that will save you a little bit of trouble in the classroom. When I'm teaching, I take this whole box and I make it very, very tiny up here in the corner because it's really not important. As long as I have my my teaching background up there and I can kind of see what's going on, the only thing that I use this box for up here is to click on it when I'm going to do the hotkey. So it's really not important. I mean, this is exactly what they see in the classroom, so you're not really changing anything. It's not giving you any new information. It's basically just giving you a second screen of what you see in the classroom. So it's not necessary. It's just there so that I can click on it before I hit the hotkeys. That's it, you guys. Okay, so you can set this up exactly like I have now, and I haven't adjusted this lately. My lighting has changed since the last video. But you can have this set up like I have now with the downloads down here. So if I open my CamTwist window and I decide that I want a different background, I can just go ahead and grab this and drop it in here. So a cool thing to do is just, or like an easy thing to do, is just to take these ones that you've downloaded and just put them right on your desktop so that if you want to switch between them during class, you can do that. Or you can watch my next video where I actually use Google Slides as my background. So I have a slide set open and I can just really quickly like scroll through all the different backgrounds that are there, and I can put those as my backgrounds. Really, really easy to change in between classes. And I also keep track on the planner, the Google Slides planner, of which background I want to use for each class. So that is in the next video, and I will see you there.